Current geopolitics has become so much interesting, and trust me, you should take interest into it. You should know what's happening. Geopolitics has too much influence on your life, especially if you are a common person like me doing a private job and living a normal life. But trust me, as an Indian common man or woman, you are much more important for the world. Why? Let's discuss. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you enjoy this video, then please give it a like as well. Before 2017, we had Barack Obama as the president of US. In his tenure, things were predictable and normal for India. We had issues with US, but we were building economic ties as well. However, in his tenure, we saw he helped our neighbor Pakistan as well. Actually, US has always tried to use India's neighbors to control India in any situation. Obama also did a campaign called Pivot to Asia, which was later rebranded to Rebalance to Asia Pacific, which had one goal to focus on the Asian countries, the Asia Pacific countries, the ASEAN countries. This also meant that diverting from China or giving less importance or keeping less dependency on China. So from more than a decade back itself, countries, mainly the US, started realizing that they cannot only depend on China. And there were many reasons for it. First, dependency on pharmaceutical and important elements, rare earth metals. If there ever happens a conflict between US and China, China can actually cut off these important resources. US had a huge trade deficit with China. On an average, US was importing about $400 billion of stuff and exporting around $100 to $150 of stuff to China. Third, there has always been an issue regarding intellectual property and technology security regarding manufacturing in China. Actually, Shinzo Abe, the former leader of Japan, in 2007, he proposed a quad group between India, Australia, Japan and US. One of its purpose was to counter issues with China. However, this group did not work at that time, but the whole Europe, the US and some Asian countries including Japan started discussing about issues regarding China. China actually made it very easy for Western countries to set up plants in their country. They had good infrastructure and special economic zones. They provided subsidies. They provided easy regulations. They had stable government. Also, they had a cheap and skilled labor. However, the spiced up political tensions between China and Western countries is actually causing fear among countries, and companies are now choosing to diversify their investments into multiple countries. This actually reduces the fear and the risk of sanctions and political troubles from China at the least. The democratic government of the US has always been Russia-centered. Hence, we have seen that when democratic government is in power, tensions always rose between Russia and US. In 2017, when Donald Trump was elected as the new president, we saw that he shifted his focus from Russia to China, and he also revived the Quad group, and he was the one who started a trade war with China. And that is why the European countries also became more aggressive towards China, and we saw that companies like Apple invested in India and Vietnam in Trump's regime. And we are also seeing that Tesla is also thinking of diversifying its investments. So there is one country in Asia that can offer exactly what China is offering. Cheap and skilled labor, huge population, huge market, good regulations, good infrastructure. Yes, we are talking about India. But then we saw companies found other countries more preferable. We saw that Apple and Foxconn has invested more in Vietnam as compared to India. And Foxconn with Vedanta was gonna invest about $19.5 billion in 2022 to set up a semiconductor manufacturing plant. But in 2024, that even was cancelled. It's not like Foxconn is not investing in India. The Apple assembly plant in Tamil Nadu, Foxconn actually invested $1 billion in it. And we are still discussing about a semiconductor plant in India. Now, India falls under the cheap labor country tag. But when it comes to bringing businesses in India, we have to compete with other Asian countries. China itself is one. We have Philippines, we have Myanmar, we have Pakistan, we have Bangladesh. So yes, India is important but not preferred yet. Now India has a major border conflict with two countries, that is China and Pakistan. In 2020, China attacked India during the Galwan Valley incident, and there were numerous border standoffs on the line of actual control. But it was just a few days ago in 2024 during the BRICS summit that India and China mutually agreed to go back on the same situation of 2020. It's a topic of discussion that China used India to divert the Western countries from the topic that China spread COVID-19, and the Western countries wanted to do an investigation in China, which never happened. Other than that, in 2024 itself, we have seen so many terrorist attacks that happened from POK. Some of those can be linked with the elections that happened in J&K recently. India itself has never attacked any country, but we have seen that China and Pakistan are coming close due to their economic strengthening and the CPEC project, because of which we do have a concern for a two-front war situation. And that is the reason why India is actually strengthening its defenses and putting more money into its defenses. We continuously see news regarding the new roads or new bridges that are constructed by the BRO, the Border Roads Organization, on the borders of India to match up with China. But regarding the defense tech, we ourselves haven't been able to do much progress to become independent. It's been 40 years that we are making Tejas, our indigenous aircraft, but the engine that we are using it from GE Aerospace, the General Electric Aerospace, which is an American company. Actually, we were relying too much on the Russia. We were buying the Sukhoi aircraft. We had so many naval tanks, missiles, vessels from Russia. We and Russia jointly built the BrahMos missile, which we are exporting as well. And the West has tensions with Russia, and that is the reason West wants Russia and India to be separated. And that is why India is actually enjoying so much favor from the Western countries regarding defenses. India has been included where Russia isn't. When Turkey imported S-400 missile system from Russia, the US sanctioned Turkey under the Katsa Act. But when India did the same, India was not put under the sanctions. So yes, our needs are more, but what makes us most important for Western countries in terms of defense is our positioning. It is important for Western countries to separate India and Russia, and if possible, China as well. Only then they will be able to control us. Other than this, we are the fifth most powerful country. And when India, Russia and China stand together, the global media has to focus on us. Now let's talk about politics. There is a large population of Indian origin people in the US. And recently we saw that Donald Trump was talking about violence in Bangladesh against Hindus. And he was blaming the Biden government for that. Why? Because 96% of the eligible voters of those Indian origin people vote for the country. So yes, Indian origin people in the US cannot be ignored. Now let's talk about another event. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, accused India of assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was a Canadian terrorist. Now, Canada-India relations have been continuously making headlines every now and then because Canada every now and then is doing some kind of statement or some kind of action against India, and they show no proof and no evidence against their accusation. This is all being done to gain support from the Khalistani elements of Canada. Trudeau has support from Jagmeet Singh, who is the leader of New Democratic Party of Canada, and we have also seen Trudeau participating in the 6 separatist rallies that happened in Canada recently. Trudeau also included India in a government document along with China, Russia, North Korea and Iran. The latter 4 are being called the new axis of evils. Basically, the West is naming the groups similar to World War II. Trudeau is on his way to destroy Canada-India relations completely. This is really an undesirable situation. But yes, India is important for Trudeau as an agenda to win in elections. It's not only Canada, even our neighboring countries like Maldives used India as an agenda to win the election, even after India helped Maldives so much financially. Bangladesh recently saw a military coup where there was so much of hate against India. Previously, we saw Nepal went on an anti-India stance with KP Oli, and there were so many territorial disputes. There were so many wrong maps which were published. Unfortunately, India has been a topic of interest for the Western media. We've seen poverty of India sells outside India. India is always portrayed as a poor country with no quality of life. There is poor infrastructure. There are so many issues. But that is not true today. India always ranks lower in most of the indexes that are created by the Western countries. It's a topic of discussion that these indexes are actually a tool of propaganda for the Western countries to change the minds of people of other countries. If you see that in last 5 years, India's rank has decreased in the hunger index. you will blame the government, right? Now let's talk about Russia-Ukraine war. Let's talk about another perspective of looking at it. When Russia attacked Ukraine, the Western countries sanctioned Russia and freezed all the foreign assets of Russia. In fact, those foreign assets were given to Ukraine for the war reparations. Now, when the West started breaking its ties with Russia, Russia looked at India and China and some of its allies. While Russia is more dependent on China, Russia needed India for geopolitical reasons. Russia offered India oil at much lower costs. Not only India, few other countries as well. While the OPEC was cutting supplies and the oil prices shot up for the entire world. Russia replaced Saudi Arabia as well and became number one in terms of importing oil. And while Canada was cutting its ties with India and the Five Eyes group, the Australia, New Zealand, US and UK were not stopping it, Vladimir Putin played a master stroke by bringing India and China on the same table in Russia to solve the border issues between India and China. So now you see that India is important for both the West as well as Russia and China. And India is exactly at the center, and tilting to any side will not be beneficial for India because both of the sides have its pros and cons. The West especially wants India to always stay troubled, and that is the reason why you will see all the neighboring countries of India, they are not doing good right now. There's some kind of foreign influence in each of those countries, and India remains protected because of the policies of government. If you see, Sri Lanka gave Hambantota port to China for 99 years on lease because they were not able to repay the loans from China. The US involvement in Bangladesh coup is speculated because Bangladesh never enjoyed good relations with the US. There's so much of land that China has captured on Nepal, but Nepal is always silent about that. We know that Pakistan has more of a military control and their government doesn't make sense at all. We saw that Imran Khan was overthrown and Shehbaz Sharif took the position as PM. However, if India-Pakistan border issues are resolved, there will be no relevance of the Pakistan military. And that is the reason why the tensions has to be always there. Not directly, but indirectly. Maybe through terrorism. And that's what we are seeing. But still, the world wants to do business with India and use India to counter China. At least that is what the US thinks. And that is why India is important. Now there's also a thing that we are predicting that US will see a downfall in the next 50 years and India and China are gonna rise to power. But that is just a prediction. To make it a reality, both you and I will have to work on it. There's a part that the government will play and there's a part that we will play. The government will make sure that infrastructure meets the needs of the nation and it makes favorable conditions for the businesses. Already we are seeing so many incubation centers around the major cities. The government is pushing startups, they are giving grants to them, they are promoting them. This is all that the government is doing. Now what we need to do? First thing, pay taxes. You need to understand this, that if you are paying 1 rupee to Indian taxes, if you are contributing 1 rupee today to Indian taxes, it will take at least 15 years for that 1 rupee to reflect in the country's infrastructure. So it's not possible that you contribute 1 rupee to the taxes and tomorrow the metro station that is long awaited in front of your house gets constructed. Second, be woke. Talk about issues. Criticize the government where it is not doing well. Raise your voice against corruption because that's your money. Don't spread negativity about your own country on social media. Make sure we become one single positive voice for the country on social media. Media has been one such pillar that has been always silent on the contributions of India for the neighboring countries, due to which the common people of the neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, they don't know what India has contributed for them. We need to change that. Fourth, educate yourself, become employable. Forget the concept of work-life balance, and when I say this, I'm not only counting the work that you are doing in the office hours for someone else, I'm also counting the hours that you put after the working hours for yourself. That's what I'm talking. Work on yourself. Fifth, give priority to Indian companies and Indian products. If an Indian product is not good, don't purchase it. Complain about it. But if an Indian product is really offering good value, then you should not ignore it. If we offer more value for the same price that the other countries do, if we are more efficient than our competition, if government makes it easy for the foreign companies to set up in India, and government also makes sure that these companies do not exploit the Indian workforce as well as resources, then there will be more jobs, and it will take us less than 50 years to do what China has done in last 50 years from 1980s till now. There are disadvantages of being a cheap labor country, and in the long run we cannot sustain it, and someday we need to become a developed country. However, this is the golden time for India, as India has the highest number of youth population. And eventually we will also face the same issue that China and Japan are currently facing regarding lack of youth population. So we should use this time for our advantage. It often feels demotivating when we see powerful people sit at powerful position after elected by common people, and then they misuse their power and the common man's money. Looking at this, you can either leave this country for a better life or fight these people. You cannot win against them. I cannot win against them, but we can. We can make them lose their power. And we have to unite because it's our country. Educate yourself, come together and fight. Work hard, make yourself relevant in the universe of irrelevance. Thank you so much.